In the last exercise, we took a look at importing our planned graphics that we're going to be controlling our templates within our corridors. Now we're actually ready to start bringing in our corridors for our proposed design in Select Series 3 and beyond. To do this, we want to go ahead and create a new file. So I'm going to go ahead and start Power Geopack, and I'm going to go to create a new 2D file again, and we'll call this corridors. We'll create that new file and open that up. And just like as our other processes, we'll go into our references. I'm going to attach our other 3 files that we developed. So we'll just select OK through those. Make sure your nesting depth is set to 1. And we'll do a fit view. And then we will go ahead and make our terrain model active. And then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the line weights. And in the workspace with MoDOT, I'm going to hit the function 9 key to do a little view arrangement here. What this does is it sets our active 3D model over here to illustration mode. And so over here we have, if we look at our models, you'll see we have a default 3D model over here. And then we select this model to make it active. It's our 2D model. The 3D model gets created automatically for us. Geopack manages the 3D environment. When we selected our terrain model, made it active, it created that 3D model. And I just kind of wanted to begin to take a look at our model here as we're going in and importing these corridors. We can kind of see those start to take shape. So we're going to have this in here just as a reference for viewing later. So we'll go ahead and make our 2D model active, and we're going to save those settings. Before we actually import our corridors, we have to stop just for a minute and think about the dependencies one corridor may have on another corridor, or maybe a point control of an alignment, those types of things. Essentially, we have to be able to understand the dependencies, and that's going to be covered in another video about which order to bring in our corridors. And to do this, we have a couple of tools that we're going to take advantage of. And so what we want to do before we start importing our corridors is we want to go up to Geopack Road and go open up the XML reports, view XML reports, and open in here the IRD file. So we're going to switch our file type here to IRD. And we're going to pick our file, and after it's open, go ahead and collapse the bridge category, go down to corridor modeling, and look in this particular report right here, this critical corridor control dependency report. Now this is only going to be available in Select Series 3, Maintenance Release 2, and beyond. But when we select this, what this is going to tell us is what are its dependencies. And so what we want to do here is we want to right click and we want to export that to Microsoft Excel. Now MoDOT has provided a macro-based Excel spreadsheet that will take this information and sort it and tell us the order that we need to import our corridors to allow us to take advantage of the orders of dependencies. The information, so I'm going to select row 1, and I'm going to go down to the bottom here and select down through the last piece of information, and I'm going to copy that information to my clipboard. And what we're going to do is we're going to paste this into the spreadsheet provided by MoDOT that will sort. And this file is called ird-sort.xlsm. And all we have to do here is I'm just going to select the upper left corner here, and then I'm going to do a paste to put our information in, and then I'm going to select the sort dependencies. Now this takes just a minute, and what this is going to do, it's going to tell us the optimized order to import our corridors. And if we want to actually look at the dependencies, they're listed here under the full tab. Or if you want to just look at the condensed version, you will see then the order that we would import those to minimize any rework we would have to do in Select Series 3 to reestablish those dependency assignments through either point controls or target aliasing, etc. And so what we want to do is we want to save off this spreadsheet because we'll use this as our list in order to import our corridors. And we're going to save this off as this, I'm just going to call it the default name IRD-sort. And we'll save that. So now that we know the order that we need to import our corridors, we can go ahead and close the report browser. We will begin the importing of the corridor processes. Now in our list, we did not list the corridors that have no dependencies, and I will actually bring those in first. So the way that we do this is come to our task, and we go to our corridor modeling toolbar, and we select the import IRD, and we will select the IRD that we want to import, and you can hit the hold your Alt key and press a down arrow to browse, or you can use the tool settings if you want to as well. The other thing to point out here I would suggest is the import process takes place to probably use the preliminary design stage just to keep things processing very quickly as you're doing this. And then you can select the first one that you want to bring in. For example, if I brought in the existing Route 13, I know that that has no dependencies, so I'm just going to select that here in the tool settings. And then what you're going to do is you're going to simply use your mouse and you're going to click through the prompt. So it's the prompt of the IRD file. Again, if I hold my Alt down key, I can select right there. So we want to pick it, and then we'll accept it. And then I can use my down arrow or up arrow to change between the different lists. And so we want to bring in existing Route 13. We'll accept that. And now you can see that it's processing and part of our corridor or our Route 13 corridor information came forth. So we'll continue that process. We just move our mouse a little bit, and it's going to then ask us to select the same IRD file, and then we will pick our next corridor. So the next one is going to be exist 82. So we'll arrow down, then we'll left click to accept, and you can see that came in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to proceed with importing, and then when I come to one that has a dependency prompt, I will resume the video and show you that. So I'm going to go ahead and import a few, and then I'll come back and show you something here in just a moment. One thing I wanted to point out, I'm going to import a corridor here called Business 13. It has actually super elevation in Roadway Designer, and so I'm going to come up here to my element templates and go down to modeling. And we're going to talk about why we're going to do this. And I'm going to select the element template here for the super elevation section, and notice how that sets the appropriate level, color, style, and weight for MicroStation. Essentially, when super elevation is created in Select Series 3, it's going to use your active MicroStation symbology to draw the boundaries of the super elevation section as well as the lane objects. And so we want to make sure we set that before we actually create super elevation or import a corridor that has super elevation. And so now if I import the corridor in question here, it's going to be Business 13. I select that and allow that to import. And I zoom in here, you can see that the super elevation section is here, and it came in again on the active MicroStation symbology. So just make sure that you set that MicroStation symbology active correctly before bringing in a corridor or creating super elevation that is in a corridor. At this point, I'm going to import a corridor called Route 13, and I wanted to show this particular one. So we'll accept that. We'll accept corridor Route 13. And notice this information pops up. It shows that it's missing a dependency. Dependencies for this corridor object were not found. If you want to continue, the corridor will be imported without this particular dependency setting. And notice how that it doesn't have secondary alignments or point controls, but it does have a target alias that targets corridor named 82. And it says, hey, that corridor is not here. Do you want to continue? And you also have the ability to save that report. And so if I come over here, I can say Route 13 missing dependencies, and I can save that, and we'll have that then in our text file. Well, because we have to go ahead and reestablish our target aliasing after we're done importing anyway, it's okay to go ahead and proceed on this particular missing dependency. And so we will talk about that actually in our next video about reestablishing those. So we'll say yes to this and allow that to import. And what this will mean is, because a lot of our dependencies have to be set after the import process is completed, we may have missing alignments going where we have fill slopes going to 0 elevations or those types of things. And so don't think that there's a problem when you see things not going quite right, as once we reestablish those connections, you will certainly be able to then see that model come into shape. So after this process is all, we'll complete the remainder of the corridor imports and save off any dependency that we need to fix at a later time. With all the corridors now imported and our dependency reports created, we're ready to actually begin to correct or add in the references that each of the corridors are missing. And you can see over in our model we have, for example, because we're missing some alignments, we have, for example, tie slopes going down to elevation of 0, that type of thing. And so all of this will become cleaned up when we start adding in our style constraint targets and our target aliasing, as well as our point control information. And so we need to better understand that before we start adding these in terms of how things are controlled in Select Series True versus how they're controlled now in this new format, Select Series 3, where all of our corridors are in the DGN file. And so I'm going to, in this video, which showed us how to import our corridors, and I'm going to take us into a little bit of a training session on controlling points and the different ways we control them in Select Series 2, and then how those are different slightly in Select Series 3. And so once you understand how points are controlled, then our final video will be then adding our references back to our corridors to correct our model.